Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Make sure you check them out online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. Glad you're with us for a very busy time here for University of Alabama Athletics. Start to go through our headlines for today, and our headlines are always brought to you by RJ Young. They are the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They have furnished us, of course, with this smart board to go through all the different headlines, plus our weekend schedule. It's ahead as well here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. First of all, we'll take a look at what's coming up on the show today. We'll be hearing from the head coach of the Crimson Tide men's basketball team, Nate Oats, after the Crimson Tide picked up a victory on Tuesday night at Vanderbilt. A solid win for the Crimson Tide there. Speaking of solid wins, Kristy Curry's group, the women's basketball team, back-to-back wins against Tennessee and Texas A&M. Now they're going to close out the regular season this week with a matchup tonight against LSU and then on Sunday at home against Vanderbilt. We'll be visiting with Coach Curry coming up in just a bit. We'll also be talking about Coaching for Literacy, as Carlene O'Reilly is the Executive Director of Coaching for Literacy, and this upcoming Saturday, Alabama men's basketball will take part in the Coaching for Literacy games, so we'll hear all about that coming up in just a bit. And then Patrick Murphy's softball team starting play today in the Mardi Gras Mambo out in Louisiana as they get ready to take on some really talented teams from not only the state of Louisiana, but just a great field that's set for that tournament. We'll hear more about that from Coach Murphy with Coach's Checklist coming up in just a bit. Mentioned the men's basketball team had a lot of fun on Tuesday night. A tight win, 74-72, but Coach Oats really talks about how he got some of the defense he really wanted to see from Alabama in that victory. So good win for the Tide. Javon Quinterly off the bench, 19 points to lead the way. Also, his defense was there. You'll hear Coach Oats talk about that in Coach's Checklist coming up in a bit. Don't forget Saturday, home against South Carolina. 5 p.m. is the start time. Our radio air time from Stipe Lounge on the concourse will be coming your way at 4 p.m. as Alabama takes on South Carolina. Women's basketball team took 2 overtimes. It took a lot out of this group, but they found a way to beat Texas A&M on Sunday. 81-79 as Brittany Davis helped lead the Crimson Tide in scoring in that ball game. She had 32 points. 30 of those were in the second half or beyond. Great performance by Brittany. Congratulations to her being named the SEC Player of the Week. Now tonight, the Crimson Tide against LSU, one of the big surprise teams in the SEC this season. Head coach Kim Mulkey, who of course had national championship success at Baylor in her first year at LSU. She's got them right at the top of the SEC standings, just behind South Carolina. So a big matchup coming up for the Tide against the Tigers, and we'll hear Kristy Curry talk about that in our one-on-one conversation coming up in just a little bit. Now, the baseball team, the softball team keep winning. Last weekend, the baseball team got off to a great start by sweeping Xavier. If you look back to the Friday game, Alabama trailed 4-1 going to the bottom of the ninth. 4 hits in a row to begin the inning. That led to 4 runs, including Owen Diodati with the walk-off 2-run homer. Great to see that midweek action against Jacksonville State and Alabama State this week at Sewell Thomas Stadium. Now this weekend, the Crimson Tide have a big test coming up against the #1 team in the country, the Texas Longhorns. That's a 3-game series. Alabama at Texas, so we'll learn a lot about Brad Bohannon's team coming up, and taking a look at the start times for those games. We'll have full radio coverage available Friday at 7:30, Saturday at 1:30, and then Sunday to wrap up the series at 2:30 as the Crimson Tide make their only road trip for a weekend series coming up in non-conference play. Alabama softball team getting ready to hit the road as well. Last weekend, they were at home at the Bama Bash, had 5 victories. Montana Fouts, whether she was starting, whether she was in relief, she was getting strikeouts, she was getting outs and not allowing runs. She is the SEC Pitcher of the Week. Now, as I mentioned, they're in the Mardi Gras Mambo. That's in Youngsville, Louisiana, just outside of Lafayette, and they'll be taking on a very talented field. Nichols, Southeastern Louisiana, Northwestern State, La Tech, and Louisiana, the opponents. So all Louisiana schools. You add in the Crimson Tide, certainly some Louisiana roots on this coaching staff with Patrick Murphy and Allison Habits. So it's kind of a homecoming for them, as you'll hear Coach Murphy talk about in just a bit with Coach's Checklist. But as we start this edition of Crimson Drive, following our headlines, we want to first hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide men's basketball team, Nate Oats, as Alabama picked up the win on Tuesday night against Vanderbilt. Here's Coach Oats following the game.
Played particularly well on offense in the first half. Had way too many turnovers, but I think this was a character win. We could have every chance. We could have fooled. Things weren't going our way offensively in the first half. Shaq, who's been playing really well, struggled a little bit offensively, but hung in there. Played good D. Quinterly, struggled at Kentucky. We moved him to the bench because we didn't think he's playing hard enough on D. He came in and played super hard. We don't win this game without his effort. He got his offense going. I was really happy for him. JD, we were on JD about playing harder. He ended up winning the blue collar. Hard hat, Ward led us in rebounds. So a lot of guys made some big plays for us, stuff we're looking to make. We offensively, we got room to grow. We didn't shoot particularly well, again, but we shot free throws well. Everybody wants to complain about Alabama free throw shooting. Well, shoot, we don't win this game without every last free throw we needed there tonight. We go 22 of 25 and win the game by 2. So that was huge. So happy with our guys' effort. They made a big run. We got to do a better job guarding without fouling. There's lots we can get better at, but at this point, to beat a team that won 4 straight home games, on the road, to come in here and get one place that Alabama, historically struggled to get wins at, I thought was a big character win for us. We challenged him that, his defense had to get better. He had to play harder. We weren't going to be able to win big games if he didn't give us, better effort on defense. And I thought he responded great. I thought his effort was way better. I thought, we showed him highlights of his Baylor game. I thought he was unbelievable defensively against Kenjo. So that's how we want him playing. I thought he was a lot better tonight. I looked at his defensive efficiency numbers. When he was in the game, we were .92. Team overall was a .97, so we were better with him in the game than when he was on the bench. So, fairly significantly too. We were plus 17, points per 100 possessions defensively with him in the game. So that's where we got to get him to, just where he's playing hard, and we're a lot better when he's in the game defensively. And that was the case tonight. So he definitely answered the challenge. We told him that to play hard. We show him the blue collar points every media timeout. We didn't have enough. We weren't creating. You can't expect teams to just miss. You got to go create stops. You got to get deflections. You got to make a block, make a tough play, challenge a shot. And I thought they did that. We played a lot harder after that. It's crazy. Then we come out the next time out when we started our run and show them how collar points. And guess what? It equates to we're making a run, and our offense all of a sudden is now better because we're running off stops and forcing turnovers and getting it out. So I thought just the effort, the energy was a lot better there in the second half.
Great to hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats. A lot to be excited about after the win against Vanderbilt. And somebody that knows what it's like to win on the road in the SEC is Alabama's women's basketball head coach, Kristy Curry. Alabama, a 2 overtime victory against Texas A&M this past Sunday. Before that, had the impressive win at home against Tennessee, the 8th-ranked team in the country. And it was time for Coach Curry and I to sit down and discuss everything that's going on with Alabama women's basketball. Coach, we're talking about a couple of wins for Alabama. Roll Tide. How's the last week been for you and your basketball team?
Well, it's been a productive time. We continue to grow and get better. But 2 great wins, but let's build on that. Not much time to enjoy it. You have to refocus and get ready for the next one.
Well, you mentioned getting refocused and your basketball team gearing up for the Tennessee game. What can you tell us about the week of practice leading into that game, and also the focus that the team had to have with everything that was going on pregame, having to leave the floor during warmups with the threat of a tornado warning? Just how did your team stay focused in that moment?
They did a great job. We felt like we were prepared. We felt like we took some things away from the first time we played Tennessee. We're able to improve and build on that. It was good to have a healthy Megan Abrams. Didn't participate for the majority of the Tennessee game for getting hit. But I think the practice guys, they've really done a great job of really helping us prepare every day. They give us a sense of physicality on the boards. People are really getting up into us and guarding us. So I have to give our practice guys a little bit of credit here along the way this past week for how they've been consistent. And we've been able to really see real looks in practice on our opponents. And I thought they did a good job with that with Tennessee being so good on the offensive glass.
And from outside, Alabama was able to hit some 3-pointers, whether it was Hannah Barber, of course, Megan Abrams, and then Brittany Davis. That poured over into the Texas A&M game as well. You got to be really proud of the way they're shooting from 3.
No doubt. Our backcourt, our 1, 2, and 3 continue to be a threat for us offensively. they've become more consistent, and it's a lot of time in the gym beyond practice. They're always getting shots up. They're always staying the course. And, when we can get that 1, 2, 3 scoring punch, and then you add Jemiah Mingo Young to Hannah, Megan, and Brittany, it really gives us, when we get 2 to 3 of those in double digits, it really gives us an opportunity to win.
The scoring is great to see. As you mentioned, Jemiah Bingo Young is bringing that intensity on defense, and it seems like that's starting to go to everybody else on the team. Are you liking the way your team is defending right now?
Absolutely. The way that they've embraced each and every scouting report on a few adjustments we may want to make here or there, they've continued to grow, in that area and be able to make adjustments, be able to make in-game adjustments. It does. Everything defensively starts with Jemiah, the energy, the intensity, just that, we call it that dog mentality she brings. I mean, she just brings a passion, and it's contagious with our team. And it's going to be really important headed into Baton Rouge, because they've got such a 3 great guards that lead the way for them. And we feel like we've got great guards that lead the way for us. So it's gonna start on the defensive end, and we're gonna have to go in there and defend, and that'll start with Jemiah.
And speaking of great guards, of course, Brittany Davis, great back-to-back performances for you, and she's been named the SEC Player of the Week. Just what did you make of the adjustment she made against Texas A&M after a tough first half shooting, goes on to shoot out of her mind, it seemed, in the second half and beyond?
Well, I mean, I think as coaches, it's all in our message. It's continuing to stay positive and just tell her to keep shooting the ball, let the game come to you. I thought she just missed a couple of shots in the first half, but it's a true testament to her to just kind of sticking with it and staying at it. And, she got on a roll there, and that's what great shooters do. They continue to shoot and make adjustments in their shot. And I thought she made a few adjustments, and the ball started going in, and, the bucket looked a lot bigger the second half. That's for sure.
Everything's bigger in Texas, and it was a great afternoon for the Crimson Tide at getting that win against Texas A&M, and it was really down to some crunch time plays, whether at the end of the fourth quarter, Megan able to put Alabama in front with just a second left, or also second overtime, the first overtime as well. Just how did you like how your team handled some of those late game situations, things you work on in practice all throughout the year to get ready for a game like that?
Well, you do. You work a lot on special situations and time and score and short shot clock, baseline, sideline, out of bounds, all the things that go into it. It's great to see that pay off. There's still some areas we got to improve there, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But overall, love the way we continue to step up and make plays and be the aggressor. In late game situations, you've got to be the aggressor and get to the free throw line. You got to finish plays. And we're fortunate to do a couple more than A&M was down the stretch.
Well, Megan Abrams had that big basket at the end of the fourth quarter, and we also got some great news on Wednesday that she has been named to the SEC Community Service Team. Just what can you tell us about the impact she's had in Tuscaloosa, and also the work she does with Project ID?
Well, she just continues to impact on our campus and in our community in such a positive way. And we're so proud of Meg and all of her efforts. And not only that, but, she finished her undergrad degree. She's already started on her master's. We're excited she'll return next season. But, her resume, I mean, she just continues every day to build that for the future. And there's no question that what she does for our team on the court is really special. She could have been SEC Player of the Week last week, too. I mean, she had back-to-back 20-point games. Britt was just a few more points and rebounds. But I tell you, what she does off the floor is equally just as important in our minds, and we appreciate it.
Well, great performances last week. Again, 2-0 week against Tennessee and Texas A&M, but now it's a fresh week, and now you're gearing up for the LSU Tigers coming up on Thursday night in Baton Rouge. Just what can you tell us about this LSU team and the way they've been able to turn around in year one under Kim Mulkey?
Well, I mean, they're just experienced, Roger, and they've added 16 points a game, and Alexis Morris, she's now in her fourth school. She brings a lot of experience. I think, they'll lose 6 of 7. And so they lose an awful lot this year, but they are experienced. They're a veteran group. They've been through a lot of past things that maybe they've learned from. And Kim's doing a great job. I mean, she's infused them with some swag and some energy and some passion. And those kids are playing really well. We love our chances. We love the opportunity. It's like I've been telling our team lately, we have such a great opportunity ahead. We don't have to, but we get to. And the opportunity that's presented this week is so important that we seize that opportunity and take advantage of it.
What's going to be most important for your basketball team on Thursday night? What do you want to see, especially to start the game?
Well, you've got to contain dribble penetration. Roger, those guards are so dynamic. You have to keep them in front of you. So we can't be in help rotation all night, because then we're going to give up offensive rebounds. So we've got to do a great job with containing dribble penetration, keeping the ball in front of us. So if you see them go by Bama, they're not supposed to. We're supposed to contain and wall off and really rotate well. And then we can't give them second chance points. They're so big in the paint. So those two areas are going to be really critical to our success, guarding the dribble and then making sure we box out. And same thing we've been through the past week. We should build on the good things that we did, and then the things that we need to correct, we have to going into LSU, because the margin for error is going to be really small. And we know we have a great opportunity. Taking two Louisiana girls home with Jemiah and Megan, believe me, I know nobody wants to win in Baton Rouge worse than they do. So we're going to be ready and just excited again for another great opportunity this week presents.
Special week coming up as Alabama makes a trip to take on LSU on Thursday. And then, Coach, before we let you go, the last home game is coming up on Sunday, Alabama against Vanderbilt. Anything special planned for that last home game of the year coming up on Sunday?
Well, it's senior day. We have a great group of managers, trainers, and then our players that we're going to recognize. We're hoping some of those seniors will be back. And I know that announcement will come at some point, but we're just excited. Senior day is always a really special day, and it's really important to defend our home court.
Coach Curry, thank you for joining us. Safe travels coming up to Baton Rouge. We look forward to Alabama against LSU on Thursday and then home against Vanderbilt on Sunday. But thank you. All the best to you, and Roll Tide.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Our thanks to Coach Curry for joining us. Coming up this Saturday at Coleman Coliseum, we're going to have a fun time with Coaching for Literacy as they host their annual Coaching for Literacy game at Coleman Coliseum, and head coach Nate Oats is getting involved in the message to raise awareness about literacy, and it's a great time to visit with Carlene O'Reilly. She is the executive director of Coaching for Literacy, and she shares not only what this Alabama coaching staff is doing coming up on Saturday against South Carolina, but also how you, the fans, can get involved. First of all, Carlene, Roll Tide. How's everything going? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us, Roger. Everything's going well over here. We're in the fight for literacy season. We love it.
Well, we're really excited for Alabama against South Carolina on Saturday in Tuscaloosa. It is a Fight for Literacy game. And what can you tell us about Fight for Literacy games?
Sure. So the Fight for Literacy games are events where coaches all across the country wear lapel pins and wristbands to raise awareness about the problem of illiteracy and funds for literacy programs around in their community. So we have 44 games happening, like I said, all over the country. Tuscaloosa's is this Saturday, and we cannot be more excited that the Crimson Tide will be wearing some green to show how important the cause is.
And how do teams and players get involved?
Sure. So really simple. If you go to www.coachingforliteracy.org/Alabama, you can learn about how businesses and individuals can make donations to support our efforts. 100% of the funds that we raise get contributed back to programs in and around the Tuscaloosa market. So that's so incredibly important. The funds are imperative, but other ways that people can get involved is volunteering. Call your local school, call a literacy program in your market and say, hey, I have time to give. I have 1 hour. What can I do? I have some books at home. Can I donate them? Really inspiring children to learn to read at an early age can set them up for life.
And how can fans also contribute by wearing a wristband or making sure they're an advocate for Coaching for Literacy?
Yeah, so we are going to be at the Coliseum this Saturday. You will see Coaching for Literacy. You'll see a couple of our staff members wearing the lapel pins, the wristbands, same ones that Coach Oats and his staff will be wearing. And they can pick one up as they walk in, say hello to us. And we'd be love to share more information about how they can get involved. But again, if you go to coachingforliteracy.org/Alabama, they can make a donation, join the fight. Just $10 can provide 2 books for a child in the community.
And what does Coaching for Literacy do with all the funds that are going to be raised from this game?
Sure. So we take 100% of the funds. I mean, I'm talking all of it. Our organization covers credit card fees, and we will donate it back to, there's a couple great organizations that we work with. Reading Allies, which is affiliated with the University of Alabama. They run tutoring programs. So we will grant funds to them, as well as FS Irvin Elementary School. We'll grant money to them as well. And they will use that money to purchase books, provide tutoring, offer students opportunities to go to summer camp, really to help kids learn how to read. The national average is 65% of fourth graders are not reading at grade level. And if they can't read at grade level, they are more likely to drop out of high school and have problems with the law and getting a job later in life. So that's why we really invest in that younger age group. So we are so proud to partner every year with the University of Alabama on this initiative.
Yeah, and you touched on it there just a moment ago, but really, why is literacy important and what are the next steps we must take?
Yeah, so truly investing in children early on is how we can change their trajectory for the future. So there's a phrase, and it's truth. Students learn to read up until third grade, and then beyond from third grade on, they read to learn. So when we talk about these statistics, and we're saying that fourth graders are not reading at grade level, fourth grade books would be like Charlotte's Web or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. If you can't read and comprehend those books, it's going to hurt them being able to apply for jobs and being able to have insurance, and they are far more likely to have problems with the law and potentially be imprisoned. So that's why we really focus in on that K-3 opportunity. Inspire kids to learn to read, to want to read. These stories are just so incredibly important. Some of the programming we do with college teams is we ask the teams to go and volunteer. With COVID, it's been really difficult, but asking these athletes to go in and read to students in their communities is so inspirational, not only for the students that are in the classrooms, those elementary school kids, but also for the players, for them to go and see that they're inspiring the young students. But then the kiddos, the little ones, they're looking up at these athletes as their gods, right? And if they're like, hey, listen, they play for the University of Alabama and they're playing basketball there, they're playing baseball, whatever the sport is, football, of course. And maybe that'll be me, but I've got to dive into the books today and I've got to learn how to read, or I might not be able to have an opportunity to do much. I don't know what my trajectory would be. So let's give them a better chance in life. And just $10 can make a huge difference, providing 2 books for a kid who may not have any at all. And so that's where Coaching for Literacy stands. Our national sponsors, International Paper, they support us financially to make sure that we are able to offer these grants, and they will be matching all donations we receive up to $5,000. So give generously.
Coachingforliteracy.org is the website. Carlene O'Reilly is the executive director of Coaching for Literacy. And just thank you so much for joining us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. We're glad to have you in Tuscaloosa this week. Just thank you for everything you are doing for Coaching for Literacy. Roll Tide.
Oh, thank you, Roger. Thanks so much. Good luck.
Thanks to Carlene O'Reilly for joining us. Look out for all that green that'll be in the stands, and make sure you get a wristband coming up at Coleman Coliseum on Saturday. Patrick Murphy has the Alabama softball team rolling off to a 9-0 start, now ready for some play that begins tonight with the Crimson Tide against Louisiana at the Mardi Gras Mambo. So before Coach Murphy and the Crimson Tide headed out of town, he had a chance to meet with the media. Here's Coach's checklist from Murph.
The first thing is it's a homecoming of sorts for myself and my associate head coach, Allison Abbott, who she played both basketball and softball at Louisiana, and that's where I got my coaching start. So we're really looking forward to seeing a lot of good people down there, some of the best people I've met my entire life, and just a great city. But again, for the pitching staff, give us a great start and give us a chance to win. That's all we ask. So keep us in the game for as long as possible until we can score a run. And I think in the 9 games, we've done that as a pitching staff. They've been terrific. The defense, too, has been unbelievable. We had no errors in the 5 games here. I think we've maybe done that once or twice in my career. So great start by the defense. Everybody seems to be really, really confident. And then the other thing, offense. And we did enough in some of the games. Alex Shipman came through with a big hit against Virginia Tech. And then Abby Dorr got the big hit in the first game against Tech. So we knew that was going to be the scenario of those games. It was a pitcher's duel from the very first pitch. And sometimes you got to win a game 1-0. Sometimes it's got to be 9-8. So looking forward to getting back down to Lafayette. And I know they have a really good team. They're undefeated, and they're going to have a crazy crowd just like we did this weekend. Oh, it's awesome, especially being away. Like Arizona, we got to go to Tucson. They had their 7th largest crowd they've ever had. I think if the weather holds out for Lafayette, we're going to have a big crowd too. They'll pack it in there. And it's a good atmosphere for us because that's what we're going to see in SEC play. So anytime you can do that before SEC play starts, it's good for our kids because a lot of the new kids, they never have seen a crowd like that. And the more anxiety and pressure, if you want to call it that they can feel early on, the better off it'll be in June. The number one thing is, last weekend I wasn't really pleased with our walk to strikeout ratio. This weekend it was a lot better. I think we were within 2. So even though we faced two really good pitchers from Virginia Tech, we did a pretty good job. So this weekend, same thing. We have to put the ball in play as much as possible, make the other team make the play, put pressure on them, because we have some quick kids. And I think when you put the ball in play, good things happen.
Great to hear from Coach Murphy before the Crimson Tide start a very busy week, as you can tell by our upcoming schedule here on Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. We've got a lot of softball coming up later tonight against Louisiana at 6 p.m. as we'll have radio coverage all weekend long of Alabama softball playing out in Louisiana for the Mardi Gras Mambo. Also, women's basketball in Louisiana as well against the LSU Tigers coming up at 7 p.m. from Baton Rouge. Radio coverage starts at 6:55 later this evening. Then, of course, Friday is going to be very busy with the softball team taking on Nichols and Southeastern Louisiana before the Crimson Tide have a night baseball game against the Texas Longhorns coming up in game 1 of that 3-game series. And then Saturday, of course, busy as well. Men's basketball, baseball, and softball underway. The men's team home against South Carolina at 5 p.m. Our radio coverage will begin at 4 o'clock across the network. On Sunday, women's basketball takes center stage at Coleman Coliseum, 2 p.m. for Senior Day against Vanderbilt. Softball team will be rounding out its time in Louisiana with a matchup again against the Raging Cajuns to close out the weekend, and then the baseball team taking on Texas in the final game of the series as well. So very busy time coming up over the weekend, and then Monday we'll kind of reset everything for the new upcoming week with another edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance, 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. So as you can tell, we have a lot coming up here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and we certainly can't wait for you to get involved. We'll have a lot of content here on our CTSN Facebook page, and then remember, the Varsity Network app is the place to go to listen to audio streams of all these games and keep up with the Crimson Tide. Special thanks to Ethan Carabin, our producer, for putting this show together. We appreciate the time as well of Carlene O'Reilly from Coaching for Literacy, as well as Kristy Curry, as well as the comments from Nate Oats and Patrick Murphy previewing what is going to be a very busy weekend here for Crimson Tide Athletics. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching. Roll Tide and enjoy the start to your weekend as you listen to a lot of events across the Crimson Tide Sports Network.